I'm Shannon Greer, 32 years old, a marketing specialist from Plano, Texas. 3 years ago, my grandparents left me their house in a contract that felt like their final gift. I poured my heart, soul, and $70,000 into turning that old place into my home. Last week, I came back from a work trip, exhausted but happy, only to find my parents and sister waiting in my living room. Their words hit like a freight train. "Get out," my mother snapped, her voice cold as ice. "You have 12 hours to leave your sister's house." My sister stood there, smirking, her arms crossed like she'd already won. My father shoved a quitclaim deed across the table, expecting me to sign away everything I'd built. My stomach dropped. This was my home, my grandparents' legacy, and they were trying to rip it from me. I'd spent years being the overlooked daughter, watching my parents shower my sister with cars, college funds, everything I fought for on my own. Now, they thought they could erase my name from the deed like I was nothing. I grabbed my bag, my hands shaking, and walked out without a word. The door slammed behind me, but I wasn't done. The next day, my family opened the door and froze. Panic spread across their faces when they saw what I'd left behind. Before I get to my story, I want to know what time and what city you are listening in. I'm happy to know how far my story goes, growing up in Plano, Texas. I always knew where I stood in the family. My sister, Sheila Holt, 2 years younger, was the one who could do no wrong. My father, Matthew Ives, and my mother, Marla Jensen, made it clear through their actions that she was the favorite. They showed up for every one of her school plays and soccer games, but always had excuses for mine. When I brought home report cards full of A's, they'd glance at them and say nice work before shifting to praise Sheila's C in art class for her creativity. My grandparents were the opposite. Grandpa Daniel Kane and Grandma Deborah Lowe lived just a few blocks away in a cozy ranch-style house in our quiet suburb. They became my safe space when things felt unfair at home. Grandpa was a retired contractor who showed me how to handle tools before I even started middle school. Grandma had worked as an office manager and sparked my interest in marketing by teaching me about budgets and client pitches. "Hard work pays off," Grandpa would tell me, "and it's something nobody can steal from you." He'd pick me up every weekend morning when I was 8, and we'd head to the hardware store in his old truck. Then we'd spend the day at their house fixing whatever needed attention, while Sheila got new dresses and gadgets from my parents. I learned to wire lights and patch drywall. At first, I envied her easy life, but those skills stuck with me and shaped my path. One year, when I was 10, my parents skipped my science fair where I'd built a model solar panel with Grandpa's help. It took first place, but they were too busy taking Sheila to a mall trip. Grandpa and Grandma came, though, cheering like I'd won a championship. Later, I overheard my mother on the phone complaining about having to deal with my little event while Sheila had a sniffle. That sniffle didn't stop the shopping spree. This favoritism continued into our teens. For my 16th birthday, my parents handed me their beat-up sedan with over 100,000 miles on it and said I should be thankful. 6 months later, Sheila turned 16 and they bought her a shiny new compact car. "She's more delicate," my father explained when I asked why. "You can fix things yourself. You're tough like that." Grandpa and Grandma stepped in for college, too. They helped me with scholarship applications while my parents had been saving for Sheila's tuition since she was a toddler. I got into a solid marketing program with nearly full funding through hard work and their guidance. "We thought you'd stick with community college," my mother said at graduation, sounding surprised. Meanwhile, they'd already paid for Sheila's first year at a private school. I pushed through college with part-time jobs in marketing firms, building my portfolio. Sheila dropped out after a year to explore options, but my parents kept funding her apartment and allowance into her 20s. After graduation, I landed a marketing job in Dallas and moved out, putting distance between me and the constant comparisons. I visited Grandpa and Grandma regularly, staying with them during holidays to avoid the tension at home. When I was 29, Grandpa passed from a sudden stroke. Grandma followed 6 months later. The doctors said from complications, but we all knew it was grief. They'd been together for over 50 years. Their loss crushed me. They were the parents I'd always needed. At the contract reading, that's what they called it instead of a will. A legal agreement they'd set up. Everyone was stunned when they left the house to me. To our granddaughter Shannon, who spent endless hours learning to maintain our home. We leave the property in Plano. We trust you'll honor it as we did. My parents fumed, whispering that it should have been split evenly. Sheila sat there expecting a share just for being family. The lawyer, an old friend of theirs, said the contract was airtight and binding. Over the next 3 years, I flew back whenever I could to work on the house. I updated the kitchen cabinets Grandpa had installed, refinished the hardwood floors we'd sanded together, and turned the garage into a home office for my marketing work. All in, I spent $70,000 on materials and contractors, plus my own sweat equity during vacations. 6 months ago, my company offered a role heading local campaigns in Dallas, so I relocated permanently to the house. It felt right, like carrying on their legacy in Plano's familiar neighborhoods. My parents and Sheila started dropping by more often, asking about the changes. Sheila took photos of the new features, which seemed odd, but I brushed it off as interest. Now I see it was part of their plan. After my grandparents left me the house, I poured everything into making it mine. The Plano Ranch home, with its worn exterior and outdated rooms, held memories of Grandpa Daniel and Grandma Deborah. I started renovating during weekend trips from Dallas, tackling one section at a time. The kitchen needed work first. I replaced chipped linoleum with tile for $4,000 and swapped rusty faucets with modern ones, keeping costs low by shopping at discount warehouses. Grandpa's lessons on measuring twice saved me from mistakes. Next, I focused on the dining room. I tore out old paneling, painted the walls a soft blue, and installed new lighting for $2,000. The hardwood floors, hidden under stained rugs, took weeks of sanding to restore. I did most of it myself, my hands calloused but steady, honoring the skills Grandpa taught me. Grandma's budgeting tricks helped me track every penny. With receipts filed neatly, the bedrooms got new drywall and windows, costing $8,000 with hired help for electrical updates. All told, $70,000 went into materials and labor over 3 years, balanced with my marketing job. Every nail I hammered felt like a promise to keep their legacy alive. 6 months ago, a promotion to lead Dallas ad campaigns let me move into the house full-time. I turned the spare room into an office, setting up monitors for client pitches. Living there brought a sense of home I'd never felt before. My parents, Matthew Ives and Marla Jensen, started showing up uninvited, asking about renovations. Sheila Holt, my sister, came too, walking through rooms, snapping photos of the new tile and lights. She said she loved the updates, but her lingering glances felt calculated. I shrugged it off, thinking she was just curious. Last week, I drove back from a client meeting in Austin. The 3-hour trip left me drained, but landing a big account lifted my spirits. It was past 9 when I pulled into the driveway and saw my parents' truck and Sheila's sedan parked outside. I hadn't told them I'd be back, so their presence caught me off guard. For a moment, I hoped they'd dropped by to catch up. I walked in, my bag heavy on my shoulder. Every light was on, though I'd turned them off before leaving. In the dining room, my mother sat stiffly on a chair I'd refinished. My father stood by the new windows, arms crossed. Sheila leaned against the wall, a faint smile on her face. "We've been waiting," my mother said, her tone sharp despite a forced smile. "Family matter to discuss." I set my bag down, uneasy. "Everything okay?" My father stepped forward, holding papers. "You need to pack up. This house belongs to your sister now. Be out by morning, 12 hours. My heart pounded. This is my house. Grandpa and Grandma left it to me in their contract. They meant it for Sheila. My mother cut in, her voice rising. "They told us before they passed. Just didn't update the papers." "That's not true," I said, keeping my voice even. "The contract names me because we worked on this place together." Sheila spoke up, her tone smug. "You've got your career." "Shannon, buy another house. I'm starting a family. This is mine." I noticed her hand on her stomach. She was pregnant. My father added, "Sheila and Andrew need this for their kid. Great schools here." "Then help her buy a place," I shot back, my jaw tight. "You've given her everything else." My mother's eyes narrowed. "We found a letter from Grandma. It says Sheila gets the house." "Show me," I demanded. "It's with our lawyer," my father said quickly, avoiding my gaze. He pushed a quick claim deed toward me. "Sign this, and it's done. Sheila moves in tomorrow." Sheila walked to the kitchen, eyeing the new counters. "These won't do," she muttered. "We'll redo them for the baby's space." My blood boiled. I'd spent years on those counters, on this house, while they favored her. But I held back, knowing arguments wouldn't help. "I need to think," I said, my voice low. My mother scoffed. "No games, Shannon. We'll be back at 9 tomorrow with a truck." They left. Sheila taking one last photo of the dining room, alone. I stood in the house I'd rebuilt, realizing their plan wasn't just about Sheila's baby. They wanted something bigger. Sitting in my car outside, the sting of their demand burned. My parents, Matthew Ives and Marla Jensen, and my sister Sheila Holt thought a quick claim deed and a fake note could strip away my grandparents' house. I wasn't signing anything. My jaw clenched at the thought of losing what I'd poured $70,000 and 3 years into. Years of their favoritism had taught me to stay composed. Reacting only gave them leverage. I pulled out my phone and dialed David Madden, my college friend who'd become a real estate lawyer in Dallas. It was past 9, but he answered, his voice calm. I laid out the confrontation, my mother's order to leave by morning, my father's push for the quick claim, Sheila's smug claim for her unborn child. They mentioned a note from Grandma Deborah proving it's Sheila's, I said, my tone firm. Sounds like a lie to me. David was direct. Don't touch that deed. Shannon, a note can't override a notarized contract. Gather all your documents, contract, renovation receipts, proof you've lived there. His advice steadied me. I drove to a 24-hour diner nearby, my laptop open to files from the renovation. Every receipt was saved $4,000 for kitchen tiles, $2,000 for dining room lights, $8,000 for bedroom updates. The contract from Grandpa Daniel and Grandma Deborah, locked in my cloud drive, named me the sole heir to the Plano property. As I scrolled, a memory hit my parents' offhand remarks about struggling with bills, dodging creditors. Were they after the house's value to clear their debts? I called Lori Neal, the lawyer who'd managed my grandparents' estate, despite the late hour. She picked up, her voice sharp with recognition. Shannon, your grandparents were explicit the house was yours for your work with them. Your parents challenged that contract 3 years ago, claiming it wasn't valid. But the court dismissed it fast. No note exists, I'd have seen it. She agreed to meet at dawn to go over my paperwork and plan next steps. Back home, I checked the security system I'd set up after moving in, a perk from my marketing firm's tech budget. The cameras covered every door. Logging in, I found footage from that evening, my mother fumbling with a spare key at the side entrance while I was still in Austin. My father stood watch, whispering about getting in before I got back. My pulse quickened. They'd planned this ambush. In my mailbox, I found utility bills addressed to Sheila Holt at my address. She'd added her name to my electric and gas accounts, a clear move to fake residency and strengthen their claim. I photographed each bill, my hands steady despite the fury rising. This wasn't just about Sheila needing a home for her baby. The house's value had soared after my renovations, nearly doubling to cover their $40,000 in debts money they'd borrowed from my grandparents years ago, never repaid, plus credit card balances they'd racked up. I called David again, updating him on the footage and bills. "This is fraud," he said, his voice tight. "They're building a paper trail to challenge your ownership. Send me those files now." I uploaded everything: contract, receipts, camera clips to a shared drive. David promised to draft a cease and desist letter by morning, warning against trespassing or further harassment. Lori texted, confirming our meeting and suggesting I check county records for recent activity on my property. At the diner, I logged into the county assessor's site a week ago. Someone had requested my property's deed and tax records. The timing lined up with Sheila's photo snapping visits. My parents weren't just helping Sheila, they wanted to sell the house, split the cash, and wipe out their debts. I returned home after midnight, my mind racing but focused. I wasn't the overlooked daughter anymore, begging for their approval. This was about protecting what Grandpa and Grandma entrusted to me. With David and Lori's help, I'd have every piece of evidence ready by morning. My parents and Sheila thought I'd cave under pressure. They were about to learn how wrong they were. Back at the house after midnight, I locked the doors and checked my security system again. The footage of my mother's attempt to sneak in was already with David Madden, my lawyer friend. But I needed more. I scanned the camera's cloud storage and found another clip from earlier that week, my father testing the garage door while I was in Austin. He jiggled the handle, gave up, and walked off with a scowl. I sent the video to David, who texted back, "This is trespassing. Keep everything." My stomach churned at their audacity, but I stayed focused. David called at 1 a.m, his voice steady despite the hour. "I've got your files: contract, receipts, bills with Sheila's name. It's enough to prove fraud. I'm drafting a cease and desist letter to block any entry or claims. Meet me at 7 to finalize it." I thanked him, then reached out to Lori Neal, my grandparents' lawyer. She confirmed our dawn meeting and added, "Your parents' claim about a note is nonsense. The court saw through their lies 3 years ago. I'll bring the contract's notarized copy to prove it." By 2, I was combing through more evidence. The utility bills in Sheila Holt's name, addressed to my house, were a bold move to fake her residency. I found an email from the electric company confirming she'd tried to change the account holder last month. I forwarded it to David, my hands steady despite the betrayal cutting deeper. This wasn't just about a house for Sheila's baby. It was about cashing out the property's doubled value to erase their $40,000 in debts. At 6, Sheila showed up with a contractor, banging on the front door. I opened it but blocked the entry. "We're measuring for nursery updates," she said, her tone dripping with entitlement. "This place is mine tomorrow." I kept calm. "You're not coming in. This is my property, and I have the contract to prove it." The contractor shifted uncomfortably, then left when I refused access. Sheila's face reddened. You're making this hard for my family. Shannon, everyone will hear how selfish you are. By 7, I was at Lori's office. She laid out the contract, its pages marked with Grandpa Daniel and Grandma Deborah's signatures. This is ironclad, she said. Your parents have no case, especially with their failed challenge years back. David arrived, handing me the cease and desist letter. This warns them against trespassing or harassment. We'll serve it if they show up with that truck, he said. I nodded, my resolve hardening. Back home. My phone buzzed with calls from cousins and aunts. Sheila had posted on a local Plano forum, claiming I was denying her a home for her baby. Comments piled up, some calling me heartless. I sent a short email to family, attaching the contract and a note. This house was left to me. Their claims are false. A few relatives replied, shocked, promising to spread the truth. I texted Andrew Owens, Sheila's husband, asking to meet privately at a nearby park. He agreed, looking uneasy when we sat on a bench. I didn't know about any note until last night, he said, his voice low. Your parents told Sheila the house was hers, said it was a done deal. They've been planning this for weeks, talking about selling it to cover debts $40,000 they owe, mostly from old loans and cards. My jaw tightened. He went on. They promised us a cut for a new place, but I'm not okay with taking what's yours. His words confirmed my suspicions. My parents weren't just favoring Sheila, they were orchestrating a sale to wipe their slate clean. The house is legally mine, I told him. I've got proof and lawyers ready. Tell Sheila to back off. Andrew nodded, conflicted. I'll try. But she's set on this. I returned home and called a locksmith to change every lock, ensuring no spare keys remained. With Joshua Neal, my childhood friend, and his wife Leah Owens. I prepared for the morning. They agreed to be witnesses if my parents showed up. David sent a final text. We're ready. Stay sharp. As dawn broke, I sat in my office, the contract on my desk, knowing the fight was far from over. By dawn, the new locks were in place. The locksmith finished just as the sun rose over Plano, securing every door to my grandparents' house. I wasn't taking chances after my parents' attempt to sneak in. Joshua Neal, my childhood friend, and his wife Leah Owens arrived at 7:30, bringing coffee and quiet support. We've got your back, Joshua said, setting up in the living room. I nodded, grateful, my focus on the hours ahead. David Madden, my lawyer, texted that he'd be here by 8 with the cease and desist letter, ready to serve it if my parents showed up. I checked the security footage again, ensuring the clips of my mother and father trying to enter were backed up. The contract from Grandpa Daniel and Grandma Deborah sat on my desk, its notarized pages my strongest shield. Lori Neal had emailed a scanned copy of the court's dismissal of my parents' challenge 3 years ago, proof their claim was baseless. My hands were steady, but my chest tightened at the thought of the confrontation. This wasn't just about a house, it was about honoring what my grandparents entrusted to me. At 8:45, a rental moving truck rolled into the driveway, followed by my parents' truck and Sheila Holt's sedan. Andrew Owens, Sheila's husband, drove the truck, his face tense. I stood at the front door with David, Joshua, and Leah behind me. My mother, Marla Jensen, stepped out first, her expression smug. My father, Matthew Ives, carried a clipboard, acting like he owned the place. Sheila followed, her hand on her stomach, a faint smirk playing on her lips. We're here to help you move, my mother said, her voice dripping with false sweetness. Let's make this quick for Sheila's sake. This is my house, I said, my tone calm but firm. I'm not leaving. The contract names me as the owner, And I have proof. David stepped forward, holding the cease and desist letter. This notice bars you from entering or claiming this property. We have evidence of trespassing attempts and fraudulent utility bills in Sheila's name. He gestured to the folder in my hand, containing the contract and court dismissal. My father's face reddened. We told you about Grandma's note. It's clear this house is Sheila's. Then produce it, I said, crossing my arms. The court already rejected your claims 3 years ago. Sheila's smirk faltered. What's that about the court? She asked, glancing at my father. He waved her off. Don't let her confuse you. This is for your baby. Andrew climbed out of the truck, approaching slowly. I checked the records. Sheila, he said, his voice low but clear. Shannon's right. The contract is hers. Your parents' story doesn't add up. Sheila's eyes widened, but she stayed silent. My mother shifted tactics, her tone softening. Shannon, think of your sister's child. Don't you want them to have a good home? I'd help Sheila find a place if you'd asked, I said, my voice steady. Instead, you tried to take mine with lies about a note that doesn't exist. The argument drew attention. Mrs. Tate, my neighbor, stepped onto her porch, watching with concern. Everything okay? Shannon, she called. Under control, Mrs. Tate, I replied, keeping my eyes on my parents. Just a family disagreement. James Piper, my uncle, pulled into the driveway, his face grim. I heard what's going on, he said, striding toward us. Matthew, Marla, you tried contesting that contract years ago and lost. Why are you doing this now? My father stammered, caught off guard. We're just helping Sheila, he muttered. By taking Shannon's house, James shot back. That's not family, that's greed. Before my mother could respond, a police car arrived, lights flashing. An officer stepped out, holding a court order David had expedited through a contact. We've got a report of trespassing and harassment, the officer said, eyeing my parents. This order bars you from this property. Leave now, or we'll escort you. Panic flashed across my mother's face. Sheila gripped Andrew's arm, her confidence gone. My father opened his mouth, but no words came. The officer handed David the order, confirming my ownership. Mrs. Tate and other neighbors watched, whispering as my parents' plan unraveled. They climbed into their truck, Sheila trailing, her head down. Andrew stayed back, nodding to me. I'm sorry, Shannon, he said quietly. This wasn't right. As the truck pulled away, I stood firm, the contract in my hand, knowing I'd protected what was mine. The fight had cost me family, but I wasn't backing down. After the confrontation, I stood in my Plano home, the contract from Grandpa Daniel and Grandma Deborah still on my desk. The police car's lights had faded, but the weight of what happened lingered. My parents, Matthew Ives and Marla Jensen, and my sister Sheila Holt had left in silence, their plan to claim my house exposed. I wasn't going back to their world of favoritism and lies. That door was closed for good. The next morning, I met David Madden at his Dallas office to file a restraining order. It barred my parents and Sheila from coming within 100 feet of my property or contacting me. David's voice was steady as he walked me through it. This protects you legally, he said. They'll face consequences if they try anything. I nodded, my resolve firm. Knowing I was done with their manipulations, word spread fast in Plano's tight-knit community. Mrs. Tate, my neighbor, stopped by with a concerned look. I saw the police, she said. What did they do? I explained briefly, showing her the contract. She shook her head, promising to tell others the truth. Soon, neighbors who'd once waved warmly at my parents avoided their gaze. My uncle, James Piper, called to apologize. I should have stepped in sooner, he said, his tone heavy. They've lost people's respect. I thanked him but kept my distance, unwilling to reopen old wounds. My parents didn't stop. They hired a lawyer to contest the restraining order, claiming I'd exaggerated their actions. The court hearing, a month later, drained their savings. David presented the contract, security footage, and fraudulent utility bills in Sheila's name. The judge upheld the order, warning my parents against further harassment. Legal fees, likely $10,000 or more, hit them hard. They'd borrowed heavily to cover debts $40,000 from my grandparents and credit cards, hoping to sell my house to clear it. Now, they faced mounting costs with no payout. Sheila's life unraveled too. Her forum post accusing me of denying her a home for her baby backfired. Local employers, wary of drama, checked her background. The public scandal, her name on my bills. Her role in the trespassing cost her a marketing job at a Plano agency. She texted me once, blaming me for ruining her future. "You could have just given me the house." She wrote. I didn't respond. Her choices, not mine, led to this. My parents sold their SUV to cover legal bills, moving to a smaller rental on Plano's outskirts. Relatives stopped inviting them to gatherings, tired of their excuses. Andrew Owens, Sheila's husband, stayed in touch, updating me on their struggles. "Sheila's still angry," he said during a call, "but I'm trying to keep her grounded." I wished him well, but made it clear I was done with their chaos. I threw myself into my life. My marketing campaigns for Dallas clients flourished, landing me a contract with a local retailer that doubled my income. I furnished my home office with new shelves, replacing memories of the fight with my own achievements. The house, once a battleground, became my sanctuary again. I painted the walls a fresh white, covering any trace of their intrusion. Therapy with Dr. Kendra Tate helped me process the loss. "You're mourning the family you wanted, not the one you had," she said during a session. Her words hit deep, freeing me from the guilt I'd carried. I wasn't responsible for their actions. Setting boundaries wasn't betrayal, it was survival. I started volunteering with a mentorship program for Plano teens, kids who reminded me of myself. Overlooked by their families, I taught them basic marketing skills, echoing Grandma Deborah's lessons. One girl, shy but eager, designed her first ad with my help. Her smile mirrored mine when Grandpa praised my first drywall patch. Months later, I walked through my house, the floors I'd sanded gleaming under new lights. My parents and Sheila had faded from my life, their lies exposed, their plans shattered. I'd fought for what was mine and won. The lesson wasn't about revenge, it was about standing up for myself, drawing lines, and building a life on my terms. Family isn't always blood. Sometimes, it's the strength you find when you choose yourself.